Okay, when was the kingdom of Israel and how long did it last? Well, we're coming in from 3000 BC in the area, and the target area that we're looking at, of course, is the area around the Mediterranean and Egypt. It's what's in concern in the Bible, and it's the area in concern here. Israel is this little island that's right here. Now I'm right on top of it effectively. Out here off the coast, didn't have a merchant point. Okay? This is a starting point here. And you end up having the kingdom of Egypt. Now, of course, at this time, there's already a kingdom of Sumeria that had been going on for a long, long time. And in fact, their domesticated cattle are what comes into Egypt. People have noted this for a long time. Also, there is Libya, and there are Berber people that are way out over here, right? There are people already in Persia, but as far as a great kingdom in the area that we're concerning right now, we're looking at these and how it changes over time. So Egypt really owned this entire area that was there, but there's one thing that Egypt owned this entire area here, but there already was Canaanites through this entire area here, and later the Phoenicians come in up through here, and the Anatolians. Now in this model here, we're already at some 1450 BC, and the Hittite Empire comes in, and the Hattusians. And here's when they have the kingdom of Israel. But if we look, that dissolves the Hittite Empire pretty much. In the process, they seem to skirt up over what's left of Phoenicia and all of its cities. Then they also skirt over this Phoenician city. And in reality, these were Phoenician cities here at this time. And who owns this entire area here? Well, the Hittites had just gotten through getting run out of it, but the Greeks owned most of the area, and probably this was just an annexed area, because shortly the Assyrians come down through, and we're left to believe at about this time here that somehow in a great campaign that's about to herald in the idea of great campaigns of Alexander the Great, and then of course the Mongols afterwards, that in this somehow they stayed a sovereign state when no one else possibly could. This is kind of a farcical little idea. You also see it's much smaller than it was, and it's tucked in. So this is the great heyday here of right around 700 BC, right? And if we let it go for a short while, you'll find that the Babylonians come on and take it over, and those are the ones that take them into captivity, right? And then the Persians with Cyrus the Great comes back and reestablishes it. Now, whenever he reestablishes it again, though, you notice how the area doesn't go purple there at all, because there is really no time at all. I think it's under 60 years in between the two of the Persians and then the Macedonian Empire rolling back over it. And of course, this is Alexander the Great, who conquered Egypt first and then ran down through as far as into India and stopped at the Indus Valley area and came back and died shortly after in a tragic way. But anyhow, if you notice, there wasn't a purple spot in between the two, although Cyrus the Great had given him back the temple in Jerusalem. Was the land theirs? No, the land wasn't theirs at that time either. So it apparently was just a fleeting glimpse, a flash in the pan somewhat, because now we're all the way at some 60 BC or so, rolling through what still is the Macedonian Empire, and then it, of course, breaks up into pieces and then gets swallowed up by the Roman Empire after Alexander's death. And then you'll see a few moves going here, but pretty much the Roman Empire turns into the Byzantine Empire. And then from the east, Sassanids come in. Then the Caliphate, which comes out of Area and the Arabs that ran across and started the sub-Saharan African slave trade and so on, and ended up leading into what would be the Moors here shortly. They ended up taking over the area. And then the Crusader kingdoms of the Great Crusades that they had running through this time. And then it gets enveloped again by Saladin's empire, and you can see the Crusades held on to very few before they fell. But Saladin's empire, all of a sudden, after the Mongols had come in and not even reached quite to it, just seemed to dissolve. And luckily the Mongols only got so far. But then the Great Ottoman Empire took over, and it led up into the 1900s. And then you have the great British colonization coming back through and taking back over all of the areas of North Africa and into the Levant area itself. And then back into concern here again. Now we have Israel being given back to them due to a program set up at the end of World War II, that if they got the Americans involved in World War II, that they would somehow get a portion of this land back. They got all of it back that was a smaller portion, and then expanded again under armistice and trapped the Palestinians. And this is why you have the Palestine problem that's in that area today. Palestinians are somewhat migrants, and if you'll really look at it, Israelis are migrants too, but they're all looking for a homeland. And after this becomes the era of independence, where all the way from the late 20s and 30s all the way up till the 1970s, you have the area what's known as independence, the realm of independence, and each one of these became independent from British colonies. And finally, once they become somewhat situated and able to control themselves in a much better way, they were independent. And then later a lot of African countries here in the last little bit. So if we were to look at this one more time in just a flash of the pan pose, and we were to look for the purple in this area right here, as we float through time again, as we just now go through a little over 1,000 years, you have Jerusalem and Baghdad, these two important places that seems life started off, because in the Bible story, Baghdad is near the area of Ur between the Tigris and Euphrates, where it all started. The great floods that happened here, that now we find are somewhat localized, but caused the people to push out and come over to here in the story of Abraham, who was from Ur, then come into Jerusalem and another people's land, which already existed at that time. I know you want to think that they came out of the boat and a few generations later, here we are, but how come there's hundreds of thousands of people in all these different areas at this time if there only 8 people lived? It can't make common sense, and it shows you there's a twist to reality of the timeline that's trying to be given between these two. But here we go, floating through time, and there's that little purple spot that was in there, and now it's all gone away. And so Jerusalem lasts through time, but the land of Israel never really existed for any good period of time at all. And in the time that we give it credit for, they were pretty much under the rule of other people. Most people don't have that fathomed in. But here's a reality for you. Have a great day.